Yo, here we go. Part 2, the Michelson-Morley proof Earth is stationary experiment. And then I'm going to go over the Michelson-Gale proof of the ether. What strikes you as being some thoughts that people would have if, in the short space of a few weeks, the universally held conviction that the Earth rotates on an axis daily and orbits the Sun annually were exposed as an anti-scientific deception? Keep in mind that a rotating orbiting Earth is not counted as a mere hypothesis or even a theory anywhere in the world today. Oh no. Rather, this concept is an unquestioned truth, an established fact in all books and other media everywhere, church media included. Copernicanism, in short, is a concept that's protected in a bunker under a 50-foot thick ceiling of solid scientific concrete. It's meant to be impregnable. It's a concept that's become ensconced in men's minds as the indestructible cornerstone of enlightened modern man's knowledge. Virtually all people everywhere have been taught to believe, and do believe, that this concept is based on objective science and dispassionate secular reasoning. Marshall Hall exposing the Copernican deception. So it's not proven. It's still a theory. It's completely ridiculous and unproven, but they teach it as fact, okay? They teach it as fact that you're not even allowed to argue with at all because they have an agenda, and that's a sun-worshipping agenda, period. There is no way around it, and they're not going to let anything get in the way. An experiment known as Airy's failure involves filling a telescope with water to slow down the speed of light inside. Usually telescopes must be slightly tilted to get the starlight down the axis of the tube, supposedly due to Earth's speed around the sun. That's an error. It's the firmament rotating above. Airy discovered that actually the starlight was already coming in at the correct angle, so no change was necessary. This demonstrated that the stars move relative to a stationary Earth and not the other way around. If it was the telescope moving, he would have to change the angle. Another 5 degrees, no change. And then when the fact that light slows down because water's denser proves that the speed of light is not constant, by the way. That's another thing they bring up in all these experiments, that not only did Einstein lie about not having an ether to try to sell you this nonsense of relativity. Up is up and down is down. Case closed. Water proves it. Gyroscopes prove it. It's case closed. There's no ball upside down. Gravity doesn't exist. Evolution, heliocentrism, relativity. It's all nonsense. And he says that the speed of light is constant. That's nonsense as well, because water slows down light. So it's just so many problems with these liars, these Freemasons, man. They all lie about everything, and then they teach it as truth. And then you get these idiots that regurgitate their college bullshit, that they teach evolution, and then they're going to say, well, my college taught me this. Shut up. Don't even say you were taught this. You're going to get blocked immediately, you idiots that regurgitate the lies of the Freemasons. Okay, that's the whole point of these videos, is to tell you they're lying to you. We do real science, and we find out that they're lying. And then we find out that, well, are you sure they're lying? Well, then we find out they're Freemasons and they have an agenda. And yeah, the evidence shows it. Every experiment ever designed to detect the motion of the Earth has failed to detect Earth's motion and or distinguish it from relative countermotion of the universe. Mark Wyatt. Is geocentrism possible? Everybody knew it was that way until the Freemason liars came along and made up this nonsense. Right up through the 20th century, many attempts have been made to try and prove that heliocentricity is true and geocentricity is false. Also, such attempts have failed and only reinforced geocentricity. The most well-known of these is the Michelson-Morley experiment, which attempted to measure the change in speed of light due to the assumed motion of Earth through space. Well, we all know space doesn't exist, but there is an ether within this enclosed system. It's a high pressure system. And it has to, because it's a high pressure system, it has to have a container to contain it. Just like water can't stick to a ball, it has to have a container. And then they're going to tell you that Space is a vacuum, which is a negative pressure system. They're going to tell you that a negative pressure system is connected to a high pressure system of Earth's atmosphere, supposedly, without a container. It's nonsense. How can you have two opposing pressure systems without a physical barrier? It's ridiculous what they teach these idiots in college, and then they buy it, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Okay, so the most well-known of these is the Michelson Morley. Okay, they measured in every different direction in various places on the Earth's surface and failed to detect any significant change whatsoever. The Michelson-Gale experiment also failed to prove heliocentricity, but was able to measure the movement of the ether firmament around the Earth accurate to within 2%. Wow. Okay, so an experiment known as, I'm just going to go over this real quick, as Airy's failure involves filling a telescope with water to slow down the speed of light inside, so speed of light's not constant. Usually telescopes must be slightly tilted to get the starlight down the axis of the tube, supposedly due to Earth's speed around the sun. Airy discovered that actually the starlight was already coming in at the correct angle, so no change was necessary. This demonstrated that the stars move relative to a stationary Earth and not the other way around. If it was, he thought it was the Earth moving. He went out, and that's why it's called failure. He thought it was the Earth moving, and then he said himself it was the stars when he went out to prove it was the Earth, and he said it was the firmament or stars moving. If it was the telescope moving, he would have to change the angle. People need to be aware that there is a range of models that could explain the observations. For instance, I can construct you a spherical symmetrical universe with Earth at its center, and you cannot disprove it based on observations. You can also exclude it on philosophical grounds. In my view, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that. What I want to bring into the open is the fact that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models, not science. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that. Cosmologist George Ellis, thinking globally, acting universally. In order to save the dying heliocentric theory from the conclusive geocentric experiments performed by Michelson, Morley, Gale, Sagnac, Cantor, and others, establishment mastermind Albert Einstein created his special theory of relativity, which in one philosophical swoop banished the absolute ether firmament from scientific study and replaced it with a form of relativism, which allowed for heliocentrism and geocentrism to hold equal merit. Ridiculous. Nowadays, just like the theory of heliocentrism, Einstein's theory of relativity is accepted worldwide as gospel truth. It is just a theory, ridiculous at that, never proven, even though he himself admitted geocentrism is equally justifiable. That's Einstein, even though he's a shill, or he was used as a shill. Just like Copernicus, strangely, they waited for him to die to say that he came out with that shit. I don't even buy that. Who knows? Because of what he says, his statements. If one accepts the unintuitive but very imaginative heliocentric model, then one accepts, even though it goes against observation, experimental evidence and common sense that the Earth is actually spinning around its axis at 1,000 miles per hour, revolving around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, honky shonky hocus pocus, while the entire solar system rotates, soup to nuts, around the Milky Way galaxy 500,000 miles an hour, and the Milky Way speeds through the known universe at over 670,000 million miles per hour. Soup to nuts, okay? Soup to nuts. It's ridiculous. Hocus pocus, honky shonky, conflicting directions, conflicting speeds. It's batshit crazy. Most people answer, though they can't explain how, that this is because the Earth's atmosphere supposedly rotates precisely along with the Earth. But if that's the case, then heliocentric dogmatists run into a whole other host of problems. For instance, if both the Earth and its atmosphere are spinning at 1,000 miles per hour west to east, then why don't pilots need to make 1,000 mile an hour compensation acceleration when flying east to west? If 1,000 mile per hour atmosphere is constantly flowing eastward, why don't north-southbound pilots have to set diagonal courses to compensate? If 1,000-mile-per-hour atmosphere is constantly flowing eastward, how do you explain the casual yet unpredictable movement of clouds, wind patterns, and weather formations every which way? If the atmosphere is constantly being pulled along with the Earth's rotation, then why can't I feel the slightest westward breeze but not the Earth's 1,000-mile-per-hour eastward spin? They tell you the most ridiculous shit that goes against what you see, hear, feel with your own senses. They get you to deny your own senses. And you do. Experiments have been performed firing cannons in all cardinal directions to check for Earth rotation. If the Earth was really spinning, as the ridiculous heliocentric model suggests, then the east firing cannonballs should fall significantly further than all others, and west firing cannonballs should fall significantly closer than all others. In actual fact, however, regardless of which direction one fires a cannon, north, south, east, or west, the distance covered is always the same. You're not moving. You can throw a football straight up and it'll come right back down at you, or shoot a cannonball up and it'll come back down and almost go back into the cannon because you're not spinning. A helicopter can hover. Planes can land on a runway and not have to worry about 1,000 miles an hour Earth spin. How do planes land if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? Okay, honky shonky. It's ridiculous, man. By removing Earth from the motionless center of the universe, these dark philosophers, Copernicus, Kepler, Newton, Galileo, Einstein, all Freemason idiots, shills, sellouts, Jesuits, have moved us physically and metaphysically from a place of supreme importance to one of complete nihilistic indifference. If the Earth is the center of the universe, then the ideas of God creation and a purpose for human existence are resplendent. But if the Earth is just one of billions of planets revolving around billions and billions and galaxies and stars and billions of ridiculous bullshit, then the ideas of God creation and a specific perfect purpose for Earth and human existence become highly implausible. Remember that the first form of a clock was a sundial, and it determines the time of day by position of the sun. And whatever position the sun was in, it would cast a shadow around the dial. The hour was known by the location of the shadow. So that means that for the sun to be in different positions would mean that it moves. The sun moves, has to move, not the Earth. Think about that. The Earth rotating 360 degrees constantly while orbiting the sun would not make a sundial very accurate, now would it? But they used it for thousands of years. Just like they use sextants, and at night they use the stars. They use the stars to navigate because the stars were fixed to one another like Orion's belt is fixed to the Great Pyramids to this day. They haven't moved. That's why there's constellations. If you were flying through space, constellations would not exist. This conclusion directly contradicts the explanation which presupposes that the Earth moves. Physicist Albert Michelson.